Hello guys and welcome back. The 2019 NHL Draft, we all know and love it. And we've done videos in the past re-ranking, redrafting the 2019 draft. But The Athletic has released a huge article re-ranking, redrafting the 2019 NHL Draft class. But what do their rankings look like and what does their redraft look like 4 years later after the 2019 NHL Draft? Well, make sure you watch till the end for the complete rankings and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey rankings content just like this all throughout the year because you guys won't want to miss a thing. And here's the article from The Athletic redrafting the NHL class of 2019. Hughes still goes number 1 and Juuso Parssinen skyrockets. So a little bit of a preview there. Now, right before the rankings begin, Corey Promen explains this draft class. As the draft class has aged, we see that it wasn't the deepest group of talent imaginable, but the top of the class was star-studded with 7 legit impact players, which is well above average. But getting us started with Corey Promen's redraft of the 2019 class, of course, like the headline does mention and really reveal to us all, Jack Hughes is first overall in a redraft. No surprise there. But as Corey Promen states, I presume there won't be much debate over this one. Hughes has emerged as a premier NHL player and a potential MVP candidate. I mean, to me, there's no other choice here. Hughes absolutely number 1. And it's kind of hard not to have Jack Hughes number 1. You look at the points per game since 2022, and Jack Hughes is 11th among all of them with 161 points in 130 games. That's pretty decent. And if any of you hooligans in the comments try to not have Jack Hughes number 1, I will hunt you down, I promise that. Mr. YouTube has told me that I must make an apology on my last statement. I am sorry for all those that I threatened to hunt down. All right, with that over, we go from the tier 1 in elite NHL players to tier 2 in the bubble elite NHL players and all-star. And with Corey Promen going on to tier 2, he has only 2 players in this tier, very interestingly so, and ranks Dylan Cozens number 2, Trevor Zegras number 3. That's wild. Now he says, while I think Zegras may be pushed to the wing when it's all said and done, I see a delineation between Cozens and Zegras in the next group because they are centers with high-end talent that you can build a franchise around. Cozens is in the mold of a big, rounded center with a legit offense, and Zegras is one of the most purely skilled and creative players in the NHL, even if his game can lack in other areas. Lack in other areas is a really big understatement, but, you know, whatever floats your boat. Here's the thing. I love Trevor Zegras. I love the skill set he showed. I was one of his biggest fans back before the 2019 NHL draft, but having him third right now of what some of the other prospects, one of the other players have shown is asinine. Dylan Cozens, I mean, he hasn't had the greatest start to the year, but last year he was a really underrated player in the entire NHL. He was great last year for Buffalo, and, you know, I wouldn't have him number 2, but I could see the vision. I could see at least a little bit of that. And then you go into Trevor Zegras being third, and to me, I just think there's no explaining this. I mean, Corey Promen tries to explain it, saying that there's a delineation between Cozens and Zegras in the next group because they are centers with high-end talent that you can build a franchise around, but Zegras, not even long-term, which he won't be a center long-term, not even right now is he being played as a centerman. You look at the Ducks lineup last night versus the Dallas Stars, and Trevor Zegras wasn't even a center in that game, with Leo Carlsson, of course, playing his first game of the season. You had Zegras on the left wing, Carlsson at center, Troy Terry on the right wing, a line that looked pretty great all throughout. But Trevor Zegras, it's not even about the discussion of him being a center long-term. He's not even being played as a center right now, and that's one of the biggest reasons why he's in the second tier. Make it make sense, man. And already, and I don't know where they are in the rest of this list, but already with Trevor Zegras being third overall, he's above Moritz, Seider, Caufield, Matvei, Boldy, players that, I'm sorry, are just better than Trevor Zegras at this stage. And the fact that they're still listing him as a centerman, having him a tier ahead just because he's a center, even though he says he's not going to, and he isn't even right now, whatever. But now let's go on to the next tier here, and I'm kind of fascinated by the rankings because we'll probably see a few more players in this next tier. Tier 3, NHL All-Star, okay. I'm kind of nervous over these next few players. Oh boy, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Cole Caufield 4th overall, Moritz, Seider 5, Matt Boldy 6, Bowen, Byram 7. But this is the problem. I don't disagree that all 4 of these guys could be at an all-star level. The big problem is that Trevor Zegras is 3rd overall, while players like Caufield, Seider, Boldy are on a completely different tier. I just can't get around that. Especially 4 and 5. Cole Caufield, you guys know, is my boy, obviously, but Moritz Seider is blasphemous at number 5. I know last year wasn't the greatest, but he won the Calder Trophy for a friggin' reason, okay? And this year he's gotten off to a great start already, looking fantastic for Detroit. He will be one of the best defensemen in no time, and even after his rookie season was already considered one of the better ones. To me, having him 5th in this ranking, not even below Zegras, 2 spots below Zegras. Come on, man. Corey Proman says, Seider and Byram are two legit star talents on defense. Seider is a bit more proven, but Byram has been excellent when healthy and has a Stanley Cup to his name already. Caufield and Boldy are special talents on the wing, who are now proven top NHL scorers and have big paydays already. He says Caufield especially has continued to show his elite skill and goal-scoring touch, translates to the NHL level, and is a threat to post big numbers over his career. I also do want to shout out Matt Boldy here. If you look at 2019 points per game since 2022, you of course have Jack Hughes leading the way with 1.24 points per game. Insane. But look at number 2. Tied for second place is Matt Boldy with a 0.80. And you especially consider the player that he's tied with in Trevor Zegras. And Matt Boldy is a way better defensive player, has shown way better overall game in his NHL career so far. So if you remove biases, Matt Boldy probably has been the more impactful NHL player thus far. You also consider that Matt Boldy has played 29 less games and already has more goals and even strength goals. That's not bad. Going on to number 7 in Bowen Byram, it's kind of hard to argue against that spot considering what he's shown when he has been healthy at the NHL level, which has been good, and so far, besides the penalties this season, he's produced some pretty great underlying statistics, even if he hasn't gotten any points yet. So I can absolutely see why you'd have Bowen Byram here at number 7, and maybe there is even a case where healthy, long-term, he projects into that top 6 potentially. There was a reason why he was drafted so high. But now that is it for the Tier 3 NHL All-Star tiers. The rest are players outside of that, so let's go on to Tier 4, top of the lineup players, and only Kaapo Kakko. Okay. This is pretty interesting. You guys know, even though I love Kaapo Kakko, it's kind of hard to argue against this. I mean, still, the fact that they're calling him a top of the lineup player is probably better than a lot of people will give him credit for. As Corey Proman mentions, Kakko is in a tier of his own because while I think he's a player with top-line tools and has shown well in the NHL, I would also stop short of calling him a player with a star potential like I would with players like Caufield or Boldy. I don't see that level of elite skill in his game. Still, he's a big, powerful forward who is dangerous with the puck and can make a lot of plays. And at this stage in his career, I also don't think that's really all that unfair. But honestly, if we were doing a redraft right now, this would kind of be in the area I would have a Kaapo Kakko as well. To me, it's kind of interchangeable between him and Bowen Byram, in my opinion, but having him number 8, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but he has proved himself to be a consistent top 6 guy that can handle top-line responsibilities, look good defensively, bring in some good physical presence too, and have some good moments here and there. We'll hopefully see him take bigger next steps. I'm still hoping for that, but as of right now, I don't mind it. But I guess that's the only player in Tier 4 for top of the lineup player. Now let's go on to Tier 5, and I think this might be where we get into the messy middle. Because like Proman mentions, there's a few guys that I could see after this, but not a lot of guys that really stand out to you all that much, and this could get really interesting. Now let's go on to Tier 5, bubble top and middle of the lineup player / quality starting goaltender. This one is okay. This one is an absolute doozy, folks. You got Shane Pinto at 9th overall, which he showed well in his rookie season, but to me, he's going to be, you know, a solid middle 6 guy. Hopefully at his best could become a second line center quality player, but behind, of course, Norris and Stützle, he'll likely be on that third line center position for a while when he does get signed. Having him 9th overall, I mean, Shane Pinto has improved so much from his draft year, especially on offense, and has continued to get better and better. I absolutely envision a rise for him. But inside the top 10, 9th overall, ahead of Kirby Dach, that's a bit much for me. And then you got Kirby Dach 10th overall, which of course the injuries have been brutal, but from what he's shown so far with Montreal, he has looked like a top 6, even first line center caliber player. If he is able to get past these injuries, he is still of course super young, and if he is able to get past them, is able to still play well afterwards, I think he's going to make this ranking look silly. In fact, if he plays the way he did at the start of the year and last season, especially after this injury, and is that first line center for Montreal, having him just 10th, having him below Kaapo Kakko, players like Bowen Byram, players like Shane Pinto, that could look really rough. Now, this section continues to be weird for me. Philip Broberg, 11th overall. But why would Corey Proman do this? Why would he have Philip Broberg so high? Yeah, never mind. Having Philip Broberg this high, who just has not had much responsibility in Edmonton, and it seems like Edmonton isn't going to give him much responsibility at all. He was healthy scratch versus Philadelphia, which of course Cam York was playing in the game and looked pretty good, and he's not even on this tier, but Philip Broberg is. Nonetheless, you know, stick with your rankings, whatever. But it makes it all the more cruel that at number 12 is Thomas Harley. And of course, a couple years ago, you could say that he wasn't really developing as amazingly as you'd want. But last year in the playoffs, he burst onto the scene, and this year is looking sensational. Among all Dallas Stars players so far at 5-on-5, Thomas Harley has the 4th best expected goals for per 60, also has the 5th best expected goals against per 60, and is the best among all defensemen on the team so far. So one of the best offensive players and one of the best defensive players on a defense that has Miro Heiskanen. he's okay. Then we keep going. Arthur Kaliev, love to see him this high. You got Juuso Parson at number 14, which I don't really disagree with, especially having him this high. He has shown some incredible things these past couple of years. Looks to be a major part of that Nashville top 6. Another player that shows amazing things analytically, 5th best in terms of expected goals for per 60, and in terms of the goals against, 7th best as well. Another player that's bringing great play all around the ice. And then you have Spencer Knight rounding out the top 15, which I can see because of potential, and he has shown some decent things in the past. It is just a little bit weird, though, to have a player that's starting in the AHL right now at that 15th spot. But, of course, with Spencer Knight, of course, with goaltenders in general, they develop slowly. So we'll see if that pans out. All right, let's move on to tier number 6, middle of the lineup players and starting goaltenders. And this one, oh, we got a lot of guys to talk about here. Okay. First up, you got Alex Newhook, which, of course, hasn't really shown to play at a great level until, of course, this first stint with Montreal. A goal per game, 3 goals in 3 games. I think if he makes a ranking like this in a year ahead of time, Newhook will probably be a little bit higher. He has shown great things, though, for Montreal. Looks like he's finally found his home, which is great to see. You got Philip Tomasino, number 17. Even though his start of the season hasn't been all that great, it's hard to argue a spot around this placement. But then you have Cam York at the 18th spot. And so far, Cam York has shown great things with Philadelphia. Last year was a big resurgence year, a big breakout year for him. Maybe not in terms of the amazing point totals, but in terms of establishing himself at the NHL level, winning, of course, John Tortorella's trust, which as a younger offensive D is easier said than done. And I know I've shown a lot of analytics in today's video, but it has to be said, you look at Cam York so far this season at 5-on-5, and he has a 4.58 expected goals for per 60, second best on the Flyers. In terms of generating chances, he's been elite. In fact, you look at all NHL D at 5-on-5 so far, and Cam York is 6th best at expected goals for per 60. Not a bad start this year either. And the funniest part is the only thing I knew about this ranking heading in was that Cam York was initially not on it. Now, he would later be added, of course, but the fact that they forgot about Cam York with how good he's done at the NHL level so far, I mean, he wasn't even drafted all that late. He was a 14th overall pick. He should be around that range at least. But man, this continues to get even worse. Mads Zugard over Matias Maccelli. Are we serious right now? You know, the goaltender who is going to be 23 this December, that his only experience is an .889 save percentage in 21 games last year. Over Matias Maccelli, who sure hasn't gone off to the greatest start this season, but has 57 points, 45 assists in 91 games. What the heck? Maccelli has already proved to be one of the best playmaking forwards in the entire league, especially when it comes to younger players under 25. Maccelli has already become one of the best passers in the league, and he's 20th. Come on. You know, we can talk about players like Zegras being 3rd overall, players like Broberg being high, but that to me is the craziest thing. A goaltender that has not shown anything at the NHL level being over a player that has shown as much as Matias Maccelli. Whatever. We're just going to move on. Going on to number 21 in Peyton Krebs. I don't mind that placement. Just looking at like a solid, maybe middle 6 defensive player for the future, which is a shame because I do think he had a lot more offensive potential, but maybe some of those injuries he had in junior maybe held back a little bit of his offensive potential. We'll see. You got Nolan Foote, 22nd overall. Okay. You got Nolan Foote in this placement, who has in 19 games, 7 points, pretty decent, but he's not even in the NHL this year. And I hate to throw in a Habs player, but over Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who so far has 2 points in 3 games, 23 points in 41 games in his NHL career, is getting top 6 time at points, is looking good so far with Montreal. I mean, whatever floats your boat. I know he's 2 years older, but still. You then got Elmer Soderblom at number 23. Jackson LeCombe, good to see him this high. He's looked so far pretty good with Anaheim on that defense, which is good. You got Jordan Spence at number 25, another player that has jumped onto the scene for LA and looked pretty solid. Arseny Gritz coming up to 26. Of course, he's still in the KHL, but he's looked phenomenal there, has looked phenomenal there for a while. So I kind of like that hot take, having Gritz in the first round, even though he hasn't come over yet, but he should be really interesting middle 6 piece for the Devils. You got Vasili Podkolzin coming in at number 27, which is just hilarious to see after all this time. Of course, has gone to the AHL, has had all this drama surrounding him. Unfortunate to see how his career has gone. But here we get into the craziest thing so far, because you got Matt Zugard at 19. You got all these different players ahead of Dustin Wolf. Now, Dustin Wolf hasn't played a major stint in the NHL yet. I know that, but he has been one of the best goaltending prospects in the entire NHL for years now. And there's the case to be made that he is better, he's farther along than Spencer Knight is right now. And the fact that he's 28th, I know, of course, he's jumped up a lot, but I had him as one of the best goaltenders in the 2019 draft. And the fact that he's still only 28, man, get ahead of the curve already. You look at it with Dustin Wolf, and he continues to be insane. The game he played in the NHL last year was phenomenal, amazing in the AHL these past couple of years, and again, his first game in the NHL, a .933 save percentage, because of course, the only reason he's not in the NHL is because the Flames want to play Vladar as much as possible to get his trade value up, but Wolf is going to be a star in this league, and he's going to make this ranking look silly. Bet on that. You got Artur Silovs at number 29. I mean, having him next to Dustin Wolf to me is insane, but he still is looking okay for the Vancouver Canucks. You got Connor McMichael at number 30. Is another player that just has not panned out as quickly as you'd want for Washington, but still is developing for them. But that is it for tier 6, so let's go on to tier 7, projected to play NHL games. This one is interesting. We go on to past number 30, and we have a whole heck of a lot of names. Oh, baby. I'm just going to call out the names when I see it. You got Jacob Pelletier at number 32, below Samuel Bolduc. I know the injury isn't great, but that's brutal. Mark Kastelic is a player that is a guy for the Senators, but having him this high is insane, especially over Henry Thrun, Raphael Harvey Pinard. That's insane to me. You got Lassie Thompson at number 39 or 38. You got Victor Soderstrom number 39, both ahead of Tobias Bjornfoot, who has shown more things with LA than both of those guys have with their respective teams. Ken Korzak is looking better than that spot. You also got players, interestingly, that are low, like Pavel Dorofiev, who have been great so far with Vegas, have looked good, have looked consistent, having him that low. Nils Hoglander's been great for Vancouver this year. He deserves to be a little bit higher than that. And then you got the last bit of it, and this to me is crazy. Fyodor Kochetkov at 53, below a ton of guys that are not going to be as good as him, and haven't been as good as him. And then you got at 56, Bobby Brink, and to me, this list is just insane. I mean, he has shown great things with Philadelphia so far. I know this list might have been made a little bit longer ago, but still, Brink was on the precipice of success for Philadelphia. Having him below Brett Leeson, that's just disrespectful. But let's keep going here, going on to tier 8 on having a chance to play NHL games. And you see a whole heck of a lot of different guys. I would say Alex Vlasic deserves to be a lot higher than this with what he's shown so far. And then it's kind of just surreal to see Alex Turcotte this low. I know he's dealt with injuries, but he looked pretty good in preseason. I think if he does get a shot with LA, he could be better than this, but it's just kind of sad to see how it's gone. I mean, seriously, you have Massimo Rizzo ahead of you, Alex Turcotte. Come on. But those are Corey Pullman's redraft rankings for the 2019 NHL draft. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys agree and disagree with this list? How would your redraft list look like as well? Which players would be higher? Which players would be lower? Let us know down below. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more ranking videos just like this and all the support there. Every bit is appreciated. And of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. And click on this card for all of my hockey prospects talk right in one playlist for you to binge. I will see you in the next one. Have a great day and goodbye.